This program is produced by Eagle Mountain Apostolic Resource Center. To find additional episodes of this program, as well as other content, visit eaglemountain.tv.
I'm going on record right now, I've never had a harebrained idea.
He's had lots of ideas that have hair on them.
Did you just say I've had lots of ideas with hair on them?
Yes. Okay.
Oh my goodness. What?
The devil?
I found him.
Why am I not surprised that he's in here?
He's over here in this bucket. There he is. Mr. Sin! Not bothering us anymore.
How are you doing there, Foxy?
Such a beef wit.
Do you know who you're talking to? I'm Mr. Sin. You can't talk to me like that. You don't have to be rude.
I said beef wit.
Beef wit, that's even worse. No, I'm not a fan of that, but I am a fan of finding out what you're doing after this show. Maybe we could go grab some drinks or something. What do you say?
No thanks.
Hey everyone, welcome to Together We Build. My name is Chris Behnke. I'm here with Prudence O'Haire and also our guest, Carrie E. Pierce. Carrie and Prudence, so awesome to have you guys here. I'm training myself to not say how you're doing every time, so I have a list of prepared questions. So before I say how you're doing, oh no, I wasn't ready. Let me get my prepared questions. Hold on. My prepared questions are, okay, instead of saying, how are you guys doing? I'm going to say, you're going to sail around the world. What's the name of your boat? That's my prepared question. What is the name of your boat?
I'm going to say home again, jiggity jog.
That's a long boat name. That's a Carrie, what's the name of your boat, Carrie? If you're sailing around the world.
Can you just not ask me how I'm doing? Because I didn't come prepared for that.
She'd rather have the original question, please.
I would. I'd like to go. I vote for the original question. Oh, man. Rendezvous.
Rendezvous. That's definitely a good name for a boat.
But
home again,
I don't
home
know why
again,
it just
jiggity jog. That's long. That's a lot to paint on there. You know, you better have a big boat for a name that long.
I'll hire a professional.
You'll hire a professional. Well, how are you doing, Carrie?
Rendezvous. Oh no, wait, that's the wrong. I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Good. We're doing good. I think I would name the boat. I should have had my own answer ready. I actually don't have one. So I would name my boat. I can't top home again, jiggity jog.
Well,
I'm going to name my boat Trustworthy.
That's good.
Yeah, that's a good name.
That's what I want on the boat. That's what I want on the sea is Trustworthy.
Yeah.
But I have to say, Prudence has a point, because when you're floating around out there, you do want to know you're going to get back safely.
Yes. Home again, jiggity jog.
Yes.
Is definitely interesting. So, well, thank you, Carrie. We're so excited to have you on. I'm excited to get into we have some kind of different topics that I want to go after today that I'm excited to hear from you. So for those of you that don't know, we're going to put Carrie's link and information in the show notes. So you're going to want to check that out. But she is an author and has experienced doing a lot of different things. And one of the things that I'd love to dig into today, which we got to do some trivia first, but we will, is just this idea of how to stay connected in this world. I think a lot of people are finding themselves in today's hyper-connected world kind of disconnected. And maybe they've got a lot of connections online, but maybe they're finding themselves lonely and disconnected. And what does it look like to continue to have a fulfilling life, you know, as you kind of step into your 40s and 50s and beyond? And what does that look like? And I know, Carrie, you have a lot to say on that topic. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that kind of find themselves. Maybe the boat question was, perfect, because they kind of find themselves kind of, drifting at sea, not sure exactly how to continue to have a fulfilling life depending on where they are. So I'm excited to get into that, but we just can't do that until we have Prudence's trivia.
True.
which is animal trivia.
That's right. So
we're going to apologize in
deliver it
advance
up.
for this
Deliver
animal
it
trivia
up.
because it's a little bit crazy. But I think the last time, did you win the last time we had a
No.
guest? You lost.
Well, I don't remember. I think it was an even.
It was a tie.
It was a tie.
Okay. So this is animal trivia. I literally downloaded it from some trivia website. So I have no idea if it's actually true, but I believe that it is. And we'll just see how you guys do. I got these buzzers here. So I got a no buzzer and a cheer buzzer. And I don't know, Prudence, how are you feeling today? Should I put my money on you or Carrie? What do you think?
Probably Carrie.
You think so?
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
not
God, the
Deliver
pressure. The pressure.
you can't start off doubting yourself like that.
No, I do. I haven't gotten over the boat thing yet, and I'm hoping these two questions will be the toughest ones you ask during this interview.
Okay.
Because
We're gonna dive into this. It's gonna be from here. They all get easier. All the
Okay.
questions get easier from here on out. Okay. So the first one is:
Okay.
what animal squirts blood from its eyes as a defense mechanism?
Oh, I knew this once.
I did know that.
What is it?
Man, I'm glad I'm
think-
asking because I have no idea what this would
You
be.
said a
I
bug.
think it's
No
a
animal.
snake.
It's an animal.
Oh, it's not a snake then. Ugh. I know some people that look like they can do that. But I don't.
Yeah.
Well, what do they look like? What kind of animal?
Yeah. What
They
kind of
can
animal
help
do these
you.
people look like that squirt blood from
That
their eyes?
might be for after the show. That'll be for the green room conversation.
Okay.
I don't know.
Prudence, what's your guess? You got a guess?
Uh-huh.
Make a guess.
Is it okay.
You're overthinking it. You're overthinking
You said
this.
animal, so it's not a rodent, right?
Well, I don't know. It just says what animal. I'll tell you that it is a cold-blooded animal.
Cold-blooded. So that means it
Okay,
could be a
well-
reptile? Lizard. It's a lizard of some sort. Yeah,
That your final
give a
guess?
that's my final guess.
All right, we're going to give that to you. It is a horned lizard.
What?
So, you got that.
That was
Nice job.
completely
Nice
lucky.
job. Okay. What
I'm
color
impressed.
are flamingos when they're born?
Oh, I know that. I know that.
What is it?
White.
White. Okay, we got
Because
a
then
white.
They eat astaxanthin from the shrimp and the plankton, and it builds up in their bodies and slowly turns them pink so they don't sunburn.
Okay. Do you concur with this?
Yes, I concur.
Okay, you guys are right. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. All right. Next question. What animal is known for having 32 brains? 32 brains?
32 brains. And it isn't an insect, right? It's an animal.
It's not an insect.
Okay.
32 brains.
I don't think it's an insect.
Hmm.
You can't be asking for clues.
Well, I just want to, make sure I'm not like searching in one category and you're like, wow, actually,
I think-
there's a bug.
I think you should just guess because I don't think you know. Carrie
32
knows.
brains.
Carrie knows
It's
the
a,
32
it's a
brain
camel.
creature. It's so
You
we'll let
have
Carrie
way too
guess.
much faith in it. It's going to have to be some sort of either spidery thing or squishy bug thing.
You know what? I'm giving you squishy bug thing. It is a leech.
you.
And a leech
Oh, a
definitely
leech.
seems like a squishy bug thing to
How
me.
could it have 32 brains?
I mean, that's what this trivia website said. So you guys are doing amazing so far.
They must be really low key brains.
Yeah. Well, it is.
Because, if they were smart brains, I'd be worried.
Did you get that low key from that Gen Z
No.
slang book? Okay. All right. Last question. So far, you guys are doing amazing. I don't
Okay.
know who's ahead technically, but because you're incredible. Okay. Last one is which animal has rectangular pupils? Now,
Which animal?
yep.
has-
Which animal? Now, as soon as I say it, if you don't guess it, you're going to go, oh, yeah, that's right.
Well, I know some birds of prey do, and there's a reason for that.
Probably helps
I'm
them
gonna go with
focus better. You going with birds of prey?
Birds of prey, some sort of bird of prey.
Okay. What do you think?
A wallaby.
I actually don't know what a wallaby is. So that means it's not right.
Okay.
That's an Australian kind of like furry rodent thing, right?
But they go jiggity jog.
But they go jiggity jog.
Oh, yes, they do. All the way home.
No, it's you guys. It's a goat.
A goat.
Yeah, think about looking in the eyes of a goat. They have those weird looking eyes.
So that's the reason their eyes are weird? And this whole time I never knew it.
Well, they have like a rectangular pupil. I wonder what their vision is. I wonder if that like hurts their vision.
And I did, and why I didn't know that, but I do know the rationale for why, and it's because of how their body moves and how their field of vision has to be in order for them to walk the way they need to walk. And it is that way with birds of prey and flying and all that.
Right.
But after failing at trivia so dismally, I now feel that your audience will think I have nothing of value to impart.
No, they know. They know. They
Listen,
know
I only got one right.
They know that they didn't know the answers to any of those questions.
They didn't know either. That's right.
The good thing is, Carrie, we weren't expecting you to know the animal trivia. So actually, you performed amazingly. You did amazing. You guys both did amazing. I'm calling it a tie. I think you guys both did incredible. The nice thing about being the one that asks the questions is I never have to show that I don't know the answer to any of these. But I didn't know the answer to any of these. None of them.
Okay.
None of them.
That was stressful.
Okay.
All right.
Drop us a Gen Z slang and then let's get to what really matters.
Just one word. Okay. The word is drip.
Drip. Oh,
Have
yeah.
you ever heard this word before, Carrie? A younger generation using this?
Yeah.
Drip.
Yeah.
Do you know what it means?
I think well, when I used it, it was slang for kind of a nothing, kind of I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to be tactful.
That's more reasonable than the current generation, the way they use it.
Yeah.
Kind of a illusory thing. So I don't know.
Okay.
I don't.
So drip is a nice sense of style.
Yes. Or
Drip?
Drip
Yep.
is the way someone carries themselves.
Yeah.
So here's a sample. I'll use your name. Carrie's drip was fire. It was class. She was an icon. It made me feel jealous, you know?
it can also be used as a noun. Like if somebody has really amazing shoes, they can go, bro, I love that drip.
Yeah.
And they're talking about your shoes.
Okay,
So there you go.
I love that I can learn something. It's important to learn that. And that is an important word. And so if you ever do 1920s, the word to hang on to, which I think is cool, is spifflicated.
Spifflicated. I need to write this down. That is worth writing down.
It is 1920s slang for inebriated.
Spifflicated.
So I'm just saying, but the drip thing I do love. I'm going to start using that.
Okay. Carrie, you've given me a challenge without even realizing it. I am now going to figure out how to use the word spifflicated in regular conversation with someone and keep a straight face and watch how they react.
All right.
It's important.
Let us know how
It's
it goes.
important to do that.
That is good. I'm pumped about that. Okay. All right. So the trivia, the boat name, and spifflicated, none of those are what we actually want to talk about today. None of those are what we actually want to talk about.
That was a side to
That
the
was just
main
a
dish.
side. That was a side story.
Side to the main
This is a
dish.
little side story. But I'd love to just get into this. Carrie, again, thank you for spending some time with us. It's just awesome to have you on. And I would love to just dive in. So I know that you want to go after and really speak into kind of these topics of understanding and kind of knowing how to find our purpose. That might be a little too grandiose. But in the season that we're in, regardless of our age, regardless of kind of where we find ourselves. And I know that, in your journey, you have experience with that. You speak to that. And I'd love to just kind of launch into that. So I think, we were talking in the pre-show a little bit, we live in this world that's hyper connected. People think that they've got more connections and friends than ever. And I've got, I've got 150 Facebook friends, so I must have 150 friends. But I think the reality is that at the same time, people are finding themselves more alone truly than they ever have been before, even though they kind of are sitting in the middle of a lot of connection, but truly they're not connected to those people. So I think I'd love it if we just, launch into this and just from a high level, tell us what you're thinking, what you're seeing, what your experience is. And let's just start with that.
Well, what came to mind as you were speaking is water everywhere and not a drop to drink. And I think that is very true. The world for all of us changed so much in 2020 and beyond. I think we have lived through things that we never in a million years did we ever think we would be living through as individuals, as family units, and as countries. And I mean, it's just been a worldwide thing. And in the course of all of that unfolding, I think we have come face to face with, if you will, our mortality, our humanity. And that is a good thing, but it's also an incredibly unnerving thing. And we are extremely connected, but we are extremely connected to electronic devices today. We are not extremely connected to human beings. And that to me is alarming. And as a woman now I'm 60, I just turned 60 in January, and I was sharing with you before the show that I lost my beloved mom not very long ago at all, just as we were moving to a brand new community to start a wonderful new life. She went into kidney failure overnight, just as we were moving. And very long story short, it was found she was eaten up with multiple myeloma. And 3 months after we got to our new community where we knew no one, she was dead and gone.
Wow.
And I lived the first year feeling like I was truly on the dark side of the moon. And I think that is a season as human beings we are called to walk through. I think we all end up having to wrestle not only with grief and loss, but with moving through the aging process. But also part of the human experience is our hearts being forced to endure and learn through loneliness. And that is difficult. I don't think people really understand the process of being alone and lonely until it is thrust upon them. You think when you're younger, well, if you're lonely, just go out to a club, or if you're lonely, just participate more. If you're lonely, just get out there and make new friends. Right. But that's much easier said than done. And I think as you move through the aging process and you get to midlife and beyond, it becomes a little harder to do that. And then you add the layer of grief on top of that, and grief is isolating. So if you're going through loss, or if you're going through a divorce, or if you're going through any number of those things that fall under the category of loss, then you have that, because that zaps your energy and it makes you want to isolate yourself. So it makes it even harder to connect. I think we have made possibly a sizable mistake in that we do look at our social interactions online as being real.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, if you are injured or ill, are those online friends really going to be there for you? Are they going to come see you in the hospital? Are they going to fix you a meal and bring it to your home? Are they going to sit with you and cry with you as you grieve the loss of a loved one? And I think the truth of the matter in most cases is no. And it's not necessarily that the bond isn't there, but distance separates. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have an investment in your day-to-day community where you are building face-to-face friendships and relationships, you're going to be in for a world of hurt when life comes whacking you in the face.
Right.
So that's a long, convoluted way to answer that question, I know, but that's how I feel about it. That's my take.
Totally.
Yes. So talk a little bit about your age category here, Carrie, because I think that is something that most of us are going to start walking through at some point. What are some little pieces of that you've discovered in your journey in the last couple of years that could help some of our viewers out there, and they may just about to be going through that themselves, or maybe they've recently lost someone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And are experiencing exactly what you're talking about,
right.
because sooner or later, all of us are going to be experiencing this. So what is some points of interest there that you could share?
Well, first and foremost, in my personal experience, I don't think there's anything in life that prepares you for the loss of your most cherished person in life. Whether it's, and I can't even begin to speak to the loss of a child. I don't know how people survive that. It's bad enough losing parents and other people in the natural order of things. That is excruciating enough. But I know dear people in my circle of friends that have lost children. And that is just a completely different orbit of agony and pain and grief and loss and suffering. But in my own experience, unfortunately, as we move through life, loss accrues. And I think if you're living life properly, you are going to suffer lots of losses, because you will be out there opening your heart and opening your life and opening yourself to others. And that's what we're put here to do. So if you are living life properly, age finds you and loss and grief find you. It's a natural part of the process of being human. And I think as a society, and I know I did this personally as well, we look at death as some sort of horrible mistake. Like God looked away for a minute and this horrible thing happened that wasn't supposed to happen. It was a hideous, crushing anomaly. Something went horribly wrong. And this death occurred, and now I'm in grief and loss, and this is just wrong. And it's not. It's part of life. And it's a very painful part of life. But as we were speaking to before the show, it is the price we pay for love.
Yeah.
And it's the price we pay for being loving humans, fully functioning out there in life. So the first thing is to push past the feeling that something has gone horribly, horribly wrong for you to find yourself suffering loss and grief. Things have not gone horribly wrong. They have gone not the way we wanted them to go, but they have gone the way God has ordained them to go. And a case in point, when my mom was dying, I refused to believe it. I just kept knowing and praying that God was going to save us. And that was our prayer. And a nurse pulled me aside one day and she said, I appreciate your faith and your strength in your faith, but it has never crossed your mind that perhaps this is God's will. And that worries me for you. And I immediately had a visceral reaction. I hated her for saying that, for verbalizing that. I could not believe that this would be God's will. But it's his will that we go home. When he calls us home, it's his will. And so I had to really wrestle with that. So speaking to what you really want me to speak to, Prudence, what I think in my mind sticks out is as you move through your 50s and then beyond, the losses begin to accrue because everyone's aging and we're all on that conveyor belt going through life. And so some of us have to, click off on the end and we keep moving forward. There is a huge difference between, in midlife especially, being a woman alone and being single. And I wish society understood that more. So that's a personal thing for me that I feel very passionate about. When you're single, or you're viewed as being single by society, that means, life is your oyster, the world's your oyster every day that you wake up, and you can go here when you want to and eat what you want to eat and maybe date, or you're out there living life and you're living it on your terms. But when you're a woman alone, that's a completely different ballgame. And what that what that looks like is you did not choose to be alone.
Mm-hmm.
Your aloneness was thrust upon you, whether it was a midlife divorce,
Mm-hmm.
or it was death of a spouse, or death of your child, or in my case, death of my best friend, my mom, the last of my parental childhood family. I'm an orphan, and that's a different ballgame with different rules.
Mm-hmm.
And so in order to navigate that successfully, I think faith is an extremely important thing to hang on to and to cling to. Learning how to nurture and nourish yourself in that scenario looks different and is different. So I don't know. Am I answering your question, or
Yes,
do you want
absolutely.
me
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is great because I think that there is a lot of people that will be watching this that have been thrust into aloneness, like what you're talking about. And I do believe that we don't really understand it until it happens to us. You know?
That's true.
So,
That's true.
so what you're saying is excellent, and it's great because you're speaking to a large group of people, especially having come through the COVID years where a lot of people lost their mates. Even we know plenty of people, and that just get lost as
As life happens.
Yeah. But yeah. So yes, this is great.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm
Yeah,
glad. 'Cause
so
I know I sometimes take a tangent or
No.
go on one, but go down a rabbit hole. But that you said something that is very, very true. And until it happens to you, you just don't get it.
Right.
And when it does, it is unbelievably agonizing. And I don't think there's anything that society does to help educate us in the process. And I think once it happens, once it steamrolls over you, then in your effort to survive just from one breath to the next, and that is literally what hard grief looks and feels like. You are in a fetal position fighting to just stay alive for your next breath because the pain is so excruciating. And there's nothing that really prepares us for that. And that's a shame. I think that's a failing.
Yeah.
But after that, there are all sorts of wonderful grief books out there and grief support groups out there. And it's important to partake of those. And, in the case of Mom, we were very blessed to have the care of hospice. And those people are just literal angels.
Yeah.
Literal angels. And the nice thing there is, because Mom was a hospice patient, after she passed, I was gifted by hospice with 6 grief counseling sessions for free.
Wow. That's so cool.
They walked me through. Yes, and I don't think people realize that is available. That is a thing. And the grief support groups, the stories that I have heard from women age 50 into their 80s and 90s in this grief process, they've been staggering stories. I mean, I've met women 80 and 90 years old that they are struggling now to find out who and what they are for the first time in their lives, because they got married when they were 18 years old. They've been married all of this time, and now they're truly alone in life for the first time. And in some of these grief groups, I've listened to their stories. I don't know how to write a check. I don't know how to pay a bill. I don't know how to put gas in the car. I don't know how to vote. I don't know really how anything works. I don't even know who I am. And they don't know how to cook for one person. That's a thing. That'll crush your soul when you love to cook for your family or your loved ones or your husband or whatever, and turn it into an event and have a glass of wine and put some good music on and share a meal, and you don't even get to do that.
Wow.
that was my story. I mean, these are things people don't think about
Right.
that we need to be thinking about.
Yeah.
And what do I like to draw? You know, what do I like to wear? What time do I like to go to bed? Actually, how
Right.
do I like coffee in the morning? I mean, these are just things that when loss and grief come in your life at midlife, and you've been involved with these people your whole entire life, you have to stop and wrestle with these things for the first time in your life, and they can be not just overwhelming, but they can also be invigorating. Because you're finally you're face to face with who and what you really are for the first time in your life.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like there's two different constituent groups. There's two different groups here. There's the actual person that is going through this, and you know, I'd love to just, we've already spoke to this some, but I'd love to just hear like people that are like, oh my goodness, that is exactly where I am right now. Like, what do you say to them? But then there's this other group. It's the people that are around them that maybe haven't invested in the relationship as much as they should, but now they're watching this happen and they're not really sure what to do. Like, how do they, like, what should they do to help support the person that finds themselves in this situation? You know, maybe they're not really close. Maybe it's a parent, or, you know, or a relative, or just a friend. And maybe the relationship wasn't as close as it should have been, but then all of a sudden there's this situation, and there's a little bit of like, what do they want? How can I help? What would you say to them?
That's an excellent question. And, you know, most people mean well. Grief and loss, I think death terrifies everyone, because in the first part of our life, we want to act like it doesn't exist. It's not going to happen to me.
Right.
And I don't want to be around it because I might take it home and infect my loved ones with it, and then they'll die. So death doesn't exist. We're terrified of death. But Mom died in my arms, and the last words that I got to say to her, I got to say to my mom, and she opened her eyes and looked at me when I said it, and then immediately died. I stroked her face and her hair, and I said, "Oh, my sweet, sweet girl, I love you. I just love you so." And I watched her leave. I watched her essence unplug, and she was gone. And as hard as that experience is, and I'll never get over it, it was also such a gift and such a blessing to have held her in my arms, and to have gotten to say those words to her as she passed. And so the death process is something that terrifies us. But as we hit midlife especially, it becomes more and more a thing that has to be acknowledged and dealt with. And it's something that we shouldn't fear, I feel. And it's something that we should look for the blessings in, because it really boils down to love. And we keep going back to that. So consequently, these people that are on the periphery, like you just described, periphery of relationships with people that have lost people, they try, most of them, to say the right thing. And oftentimes they fail. They fail dismally, but they're trying. And people can say really hurtful things, not meaning to.
Right.
And people can say and do things that only make it worse, but they don't mean to. And all that truly matters from my perspective as a human being is that heart is there. And that heart has come into the situation as far as they are comfortable coming into it, and a lot of people aren't. And they're trying to be there for you. I feel the most human healing thing that you can do in loss is to just tell the person, I am here. And even in the case of relationships that have gone horribly wrong or horribly south, to tell that human being, I am here, and I'm so sorry for what you're going through. I'm so sorry for your loss,
right.
and I'm here. And, and maybe that looks like I'm here to hold your hand and let you cry or bring you food, or maybe I'm just here to privately pray for you because I can't be around it.
Right.
But I'm here and my heart is with you. So
would you say that people in their effort to try to say something, they just overcomplicated, and really what I'm hearing you say is, hey, they just need to know you're there. Don't like try to make some big thing. Like just be there for someone legitimately.
Mm-hmm.
Legitimately, with a full heart, just be there. And I feel the messages that resonated the most with me were not the ones that said, oh, I know exactly how you feel. I lost my mom too. I don't ever say to somebody that has lost someone, I know how you feel.
Right.
Because you don't.
You don't.
But you can say, I have experienced loss myself, and I understand the awfulness of the journey. And I want to help. I'm here to help however I can, or however you want to allow me to. Yeah. And the more grandiose you try to become in your gestures right. during those times, the more dangerous it becomes.
Right.
Yes.
But I don't want to turn this into a sales thing at all, but I don't know if it was mentioned or not. But as part of the process in my grief journey, and another friend of mine who lost her husband the same time I lost Mom, we did develop through Morgan Pierce something called Letters from Elizabeth. Mm-hmm. And Letters from Elizabeth is a subscription letter service for women in midlife and beyond who have gone through the loss of a spouse, the loss of a family member. They're all alone now. Yeah. And so that is something that we did try to create to help walk women through the grief process, especially women that are alone in midlife.
Yeah.
And so what that actually is a letter subscription service. It's 2 letters every month delivered to their mailbox. It's a compilation character, Elizabeth, and it's a compilation of my journey through grief and having to deal with it alone, and then my friends. Mm-hmm. And the things that we read, the things that spoke to us, the things that we learned, the counseling sessions that we had and what we learned. And it's just to take women in midlife going through loss by the hand and say, you're not alone. Wow. And we get you. We get it.
That is so cool. Yeah, I actually had a note to make sure that we talked about that. I feel like what happens is we kind of talked about this a little bit at the beginning. We live in this world where we're connected with like social media, let's say. And on social media, there's this, just the truth of it is that there's this expectation to kind of put like this front that you could make it sound nice and say it's your best foot forward, but honestly it's like a fake front, like you're putting this fake front up. And so the problem is that when someone finds themselves in a situation like what you're talking about, then like they still, for the most part, most people still try to put this front on social media. So like the people around them can see that and go, oh, Carrie's doing amazing. But the reality is that we need real connectivity that just cuts through that. I'm not saying take down your Facebook page, it's evil. I'm just saying like it's not actually a good representation of truth of what's really going on when someone's going through something very difficult. And what I hear you saying, Carrie, is it's so important to actually have real connection with people, real relational unity, real connection, so that no matter what season of life. I mean, I feel like we overuse the word season, but no matter what season of life you find yourself in, you have the actual support and connection around you to thrive.
And to tag on to that, when you're in the process of that deep grief, is that like the last thing that you're thinking about? Or like, do you want to isolate yourself, but you shouldn't? Yeah. How does that?
That is the struggle of grief. And it's a struggle that oftentimes wins. When you're in grief, Well, getting to Chris's point first, I feel like we need to embrace our humanity, and we need to, not air our dirty laundry on social media. Nobody wants to know the dirty laundry situation, but I think we need to be human, and we need to be real. And that's, I don't think we're able to serve when we're keeping up with the Kardashians, so to speak.
Exactly.
We can't serve when we're doing that because we're not in a place of sincerity and centeredness in truth.
Right.
But so repeat what you were saying, Prudence. I'm sorry.
Oh, yes. So as we're talking about the stages of grief and just the feeling of wanting to isolate yourself is, I think, a real thing and a big deal. But is that something that we should be doing? Like, should we be pushing through that to find a connection past being by ourselves?
Like, is there a battle?
Yeah.
I want to be isolated, but I don't, but I do, but I don't, but I do.
Yeah.
In my experience, I went through that. And of course, living where we live, as we were talking about before the show, when you have 2 feet of snow outside and you're in deep grief, that's quite a combination to overcome, because you're not, you're way isolated, and then you're covered in snow and you can't get out anyway. But I think the process of loss and grief, especially as we get older, it becomes so all-consuming, and it burns up all of your energy. It burns up all of your mental reserve. It burns up your body. By the time Mom died, I was 20 pounds underweight. All my hair was coming out. I was hideously sick. I had lived on peanut butter and beef sticks for months and months and months because that's all I had time for while I was caregiving for her.
Right.
So she left me, and then grief hit me, and I spent a year just horribly sick. I mean, none of my clothes fit. I had to start putting myself back together. And so you end up, by the time your loved one passes, you are completely spent. And then on top of that comes just the day-to-day trying to get your footing back. There is no normal to ever get back to. By the time you get through grief and you have lost your person, whether it's your spouse or your child or your parent or your best friend, whatever it is, your whole world is just destroyed. So there's no going back to anything. And I think that's a mistake we make with loss. We think, eventually I'll heal and life will get back to normal and I will get back to normal and I'll be able to move forward. No, you won't. There's never going to be that version of you again. And there's never going to be that version of your life again. And the more effort and energy you spend clamoring to get back there, the worse off you're going to be, because your energy needs to be focused on, okay, well, here I sit in the wilderness now alone by this little campfire in the dark, and this is all I've got. And now I have to reserve enough energy and enough faith and enough capacity to at least take 2 steps forward when all I want to do is die. I don't even want to get to the next breath. I don't want to breathe anymore, but I'm going to have to go to the funeral home, and I'm going to have to by myself pick up my mom's ashes. And then a week from now, I'm going to have to do this thing. And then I'm going to have to deal with that. And then, so it burns us up and it uses us up. And then we're exhausted. And then we do isolate. And then we spend months thinking, I need to get back out into life and I need to get functioning again. But then grief comes in waves, and the slightest thing triggers it. And, you can be out at the grocery store buying your groceries, having a good day, and all of a sudden you see something on a shelf that they used to love, or you hear a song on the stupid speaker in the grocery store that you heard with them. And you have to run out of the store and leave your shopping cart because you just have to go home. You have to go home and sob. And so you have to go through this whole entire process. And that is part of it. And that is one of the lessons that really boggled my mind in one of the hospice grief groups. We had a wonderful woman speak one day, and she was talking about this very thing. You know, you could be at the hardware store buying something for your toilet, and you have to run out of there sobbing and go home. And she said, you know, they pay people to identify those shopping carts and put everything back. That's actually your grief is job security for somebody in that store.
Oh, that's funny.
And there were a couple times where I had to leave my shopping cart fully full because I could not get through the line because the checker was going to ask how mom was, and I couldn't talk about it because she didn't know mom died. And so I, before I got to the checkout cart, just had to leave everything and run to the car and go home. So the isolating thing, it serves a purpose at first, and I think it's important to give into it for a little bit of time. But after a certain amount of time, and only that's individual, so each individual will know, if you perpetuate it beyond a certain point, it becomes crippling, it becomes debilitating, and you will never move forward.
Right.
And that is the riskiest moment. That is the most dangerous part of grief, especially at midlife, is allowing yourself to get stuck in the heartache and the loss, and the just choosing to remain isolated because you're not up to it.
Wow.
And I remember the first time I screwed up my courage and went to a ladies' event here where I live. I didn't want to go. I cried all the way there. I pulled up in front of where the event was to take place, and it was just a small group of lovely women that I hadn't met, and it was open to women. And I sat in the car because I thought, I'm just going to go home. I just can't do this. I'm just going home. But something compelled me to get out of the car, forced me to go to the door. I forced myself to walk in. I was miserably uncomfortable. And I ended up meeting someone who was one of my very best friends now, who has looked out for me. And she had gone through crushing loss too. And we sat at that gathering having a glass of wine, and it was an immediate bonding.
Wow.
And there have been a couple times where this precious woman, I called her and she heard my voice, and all she said was, "Are you at home right now?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "I'll be there in 10 minutes.
Aww.
Now that is true connection, and that is true humanity, because this woman knew loss, and she knew struggle, and she knew overcoming. But I'll never forget her voice. "Are you at home right now?"
Yeah.
"I'll be there in 10 minutes.
Right.
That is what we're here for.
Right.
And more people need to do that.
Yeah.
And you don't get that just online.
No, it wasn't. I'll sure remember to like that post. I'll be there in 10 minutes is a completely different thing.
And when she showed up, I opened the door. I had not brushed my teeth because I couldn't stand up. I had sobbed all day long. I had no makeup on. I was still in my pajamas, and it was 4:00 in the afternoon. I had been in the fetal position on my floor sobbing all day long.
Wow.
And I was doing it alone by myself. And she didn't care.
Right. Because that's true humanity.
It is. And we have got to get back to that. And I think
it's so powerful.
that's what the last few years that we have lived through collectively across this world, that's what that's been about.
Yeah.
And if we don't learn that lesson now, there's no hope moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Carrie, I love what you're saying. I think that, on one hand, we live in the most exciting time in history because we do have all of these amazing tools. So I'm not saying throw the tools away, but what I am saying is we won't be able to step into where we really need to go for the kingdom if we leave behind actual people, if we leave behind real relationship connectedness and the things that really cause us to be human. And I think a lot of the agenda today is kind of like creating division and segregating people and kind of creating this situation where people really aren't connected. And I just love what you're saying, because more than ever, we need to remember our humanity and remember the people that we need to be investing with. And we need to be purposeful about that, or, all the busyness of life just gets in the way. And then one day you wake up like in your situation and it's just, like it's not the way it's supposed to be. Right. Like that's not how it's supposed to, that's not the design I think that it's supposed to be. So
that is true.
Prudence, any thoughts on that?
You were going to say, Carrie?
You were going to say something, Carrie?
Yes.
Well, what I was thinking, and you said that so beautifully. I think balancing the tools is the perfect equation. Yeah. We do need the tools in today's world, but we need to balance them with interaction, actual day-to-day,
right,
in-person interaction. But something that you said stuck out to me, and that is the online social media thing provides us with a sanitized version of humanity. And the very fact of the matter is, and you can see this very clearly in the Bible and all that Jesus did, he did not deal with a sanitized humanity. And when you're really human, it can be smelly and dirty and off-putting and uncomfortable and awkward. And, humanity is not sanitized. And when we start wanting it to be, I think that's a very slippery slope. Yeah. And it does cause us then to miss the mark from a kingdom service standpoint. I mean, how many lepers did Jesus touch? And and the issue of blood and the woman, and he didn't shy away from any of that. He got down in the mud. He worked with spittle. He saw tears and tears and tears. And humanity in a sanitized form is a great failing, I think.
Yeah, because inside we all know it's actually not real. And so if you only accept someone in this kind of sanitized, clean environment, then you're sending this subconscious message, whether you mean to or not. Like I think this message is sent, whether you mean to or not, is that, hey, I don't really accept you because, I'll go ahead and accept this clean version, but the rest of it, I'm not sure. And so whether or not they really are accepting you, because I think a lot of times people actually would and do and fully do accept you. It's just that you don't know that, because the only official acceptance is the sanitized version. And inside that gives the foothold to that allows this foothold the enemy can kind of come in and leverage against us, which is, well, that's only because your house is clean and you have your makeup on. Like if they came yesterday, they would have run screaming from the building. And it doesn't matter whether it's true or not, because we haven't given opportunity to have relationship in those environments, then we've created a space for the enemy to come in and tell us that we would be rejected. And I think that is what I hear you saying is we have to purposefully get past that stuff so that we're actually becoming the pieces of the puzzle that each other needs, the pieces of the structure that we need in each other to actually go where we're supposed to go. I feel like you want to say something.
Well,
you're giving me that look. You're giving me that look.
What I really love about what you're doing, Carrie, with the letters, is it letters for Elizabeth?
Letters from Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, yes. Yep. Is you're taking an experience and you're sharing yourself from that experience to others. And even just bringing awareness about the things that we're going to walk through at some point is really important. Because then it doesn't sideswipe us quite so much, when we're like, no, we can't really identify completely until we walk through it. But we can also have some idea in our minds that it's going to swipe us off our feet.
Right.
And that there are people out there that knows how it feels, at least to the level of their, life perspective, that we can talk to about it.
Yeah.
Because I think that is definitely a part of the isolation when we hit potholes in life. Is we're desperately looking around for somebody who has done it before, and looking or been through it.
Yeah.
To help us.
Indeed. And the story that I told you about the lady that I met at the party, she didn't want to go either. And she was there to just drop off some food because she wasn't up to staying either, because she was still isolated.
That's awesome.
And something said, just stay. And she got a glass of wine and went and sat in the backyard. And so while she was sitting in the backyard saying to herself, I just want to go home. I'm so uncomfortable. I don't know why I'm here. I don't want to be here. And I was at the front door saying, I don't know why I'm here. I don't want to be here. I'm so uncomfortable. But I made myself, and there she was, and we met.
Wow.
But you were, what you were speaking to, Prudence, I think it boils down to, for me, why is it so horrible and awful and such a failing for somebody to say, I'm not okay right now? We don't allow that.
Right.
It's not allowed. And when people reach the point where they get so ground down by life that they actually are uttering those words out loud and seeking help, I'm not okay. This is a cry for help. I need help. Why is it such a failing to say those words?
Right.
It shouldn't be. And it just makes me so sad that there are so many people carrying so many burdens, and I know some of them, that are going through times of loss, that have been deeply wounded in life, that they refuse to reach out. They refuse to deal with their stuff. They refuse to look at their stuff. They just put so much more energy into running away from their stuff and not owning their stuff. And that burns up all of you. And then you add grief and loss on top of that, and you're just running on fumes. I mean, there's no way anything's going to work out in that scenario. And I think if it takes infinitely less energy to be an honest human being and to be open.
Right.
Yeah,
in this
I agree.
experience. It's so freeing to just say, here's my stuff. You've got your stuff. I've got my stuff. Everybody's got stuff.
Yeah.
That's why we're here. Life is about learning and growing and overcoming. And Jesus promised we would have trouble and strife in the world. And golly gosh, here we are.
Here it is. Yeah.
But we all want to act like we don't have any, and I don't understand that.
Yeah. It's harder to deal with and not true.
Yeah, right.
Well, but then you have to put so much energy into keeping that facade going.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know why we can't just say, I'm not okay today.
Totally. Yeah, that is so powerful.
And I feel like we're just tipping.
Tip of the iceberg. Tip of the iceberg.
Tip of the iceberg here.
Carrie, thank you so much for pouring into this. I think I really wanted to get to this other thing, but I think we're gonna have to save that for.
Yeah, we're gonna just have to do another episode.
But thank you for pouring in, and we'll put this information in the show notes for you guys that are listening. But Carrie, where can people find more about you? They can find this resource, Letters from Elizabeth, and other things about what you're doing, and they can just connect with you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I would love to come back on your show. I promise next time I will be prepared for trivia.
For animal trivia?
Yeah. Who can be prepared for trivia?
I don't know how you could actually get prepared for that really well. But no.
And I'll be working on my drip.
Yes, you got to work on
yeah.
the drip. You got to work on the drip. Yeah, I don't know. Some of these Gen Z words, I am not sure what they're thinking, but that's okay. That's okay. We got a whole bunch of Gen Z kids, so we've got the book. We're like learning the language.
Right.
But Carrie,
proud
thank
of
you
them.
so much. This has been so
Thank you.
powerful. I just very much appreciate you taking the time. I know that there's a lot of people that are probably listening to this and they're like, man, 2 months ago, I would have been, oh, that's great. Somebody needs to hear that. And they're literally in the situation you're talking about right now. And so I think this is going to be powerful for them. And then I love how you talked about, how the people that are around people need to be thinking purposefully how to interact with them. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't make it into a grandiose speech about how you're there for them and you understand what they're going through. Just be there to love them. And, and be thinking in advance about how do we love people right where they are, just the way that Jesus did. How do we have relationship that's real and authentic and get to the place again in society where we can say, hey, are you home? I'll be there in 10 minutes, whether or not there is, strife and trouble right then or not. Why do we have to have such a sanitized culture? So I love that. I think the message that you have is so important right now. So thank you for pouring in. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. And so
yes.
tell us a little bit, Carrie, about where people can find your stuff.
Where
And
can
we'll
they go?
also put it in the show
Right
notes.
over that. My mind was on trivia and I forgot this. So
No.
I appreciate it. Well, there are 3 places. In terms of me as an author, and I'm on social media, but it's not just glossy stuff. I have an author page, so it's under author Carrie E. Pierce on Facebook.
Got it.
And then morganpiercemediapublishing.com is where they can find out more about Sandra Morgan, my business partner, and I, and our publishing house. And we do encourage writers that have messages of light and or Christian and or conservative messages that are getting squelched out there. We would love the opportunity to consider their manuscripts, and they can submit their manuscripts to us through the website. And then also Letters from Elizabeth. They can find out more about Letters from Elizabeth. It is 25 letters that comprise that subscription. So it would be 25 long letters over the course of a year. And that is lettersfromelizabeth.com.
Cool.
And then Carrie at morganpiercemediapublishing.com if they want to contact me directly. But I have really had so much fun with you both, and I am grateful for this opportunity. I hope something that I had to say today will be of use to someone in need, and just keep up the excellent work. I appreciate it.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's been great.
this was so awesome. Yeah, just thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We're going to have to do another episode and talk about safe story time.
All right.
So
and
that's
other
just
things we didn't get to.
yeah, that's just a little, get everybody's appetite ready. But Carrie, thank you so
That's a
much.
topic
You guys.
near to my heart, too.
Yes, I know. We got to get into it. So let's connect and make sure that we get another time scheduled. I'd love to dig into that as well. But you guys, thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Prudence, as always. It's just amazing having you on the set here. It's fantastic.
You're welcome.
She is stunning, I have to admit.
Yes,
You're right,
she is
Candy
stunning.
Girl. I love your drip. Your drip's working.
You got some drip, girl. You got some drip. So good. All right, you guys. We'll see you guys on the next episode. We'll see you then.
Absolutely. God bless.
Thank you for watching Together We Build with Chris and Prudence. To learn more about this and other amazing programs, visit eaglemountain.global. To learn more about Chris and Prudence and the ministries they serve, visit chrisandprudence.com.